And now we're going to get to the quarter Cal season, All-Stars, where, Lex, I think this season really marks you as a legend to Survivor this season because of how it's played. And it's iconic. Like, there's moments in it that I'm sure you cringe at to this day. I'm sure.
Oh.
I'm sure. But this is where you got like a plaque this season. You got that this guy is a Survivor legend because he birthed Boston Rob. You are the reason that Boston Rob is Boston Rob and Romper to this. If it wasn't for you, there would be no Boston Rob. It's true. It's true, America. Sorry to call Wendy Williams on everything, but it's true. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. Before All-Stars started, okay, did you have any pregame alliances? Who did you know would be out there? And who were you surprised to see wasn't out there?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Did I have pregame alliances when I went out there? Yes, I did. I had two pregame alliances. One was a legit alliance, and one was not. So I had an absolute ride or die to the very end alliance with Big Tom. He and I, we both knew he was the only person that I was on a regular basis talking to in the weeks and months leading up to All-Stars. We were kind of planning our strategy and our game out together. And I know there's not much you can strategize, but, just kind of talking through contingencies and, game plans and, what ifs. And then I also actually had I had received, before the game had happened, I had received a call from Colby Donaldson, who wanted to know if I would be in alliance with him. And I'm no dummy. I know that only an idiot says no.
Right.
So I said, I would love to, but I never had any intention of following through and being true to that alliance. That was a fake alliance. Because I just, I knew that it would be folly if we'd happened to be on the same tribe, which we ended up being. It would have been folly for me to say no. Then all of a sudden, I've got an enemy right out the gate, right? So, because I always knew that I wanted to get rid of Colby as quickly as possible in All-Stars.
Sure, no question.
Because I knew that if he made it to the merge, there would be another immunity, an individual immunity competition beast out there. And I wanted to be the beast. And I also knew that he and Probst were like best buddies.
BFF.
And I knew that if anybody was going to get a little bit of help from production once it becomes an individual game, it was going to be Colby. And I knew that I needed to get rid of Colby before production even got a whiff of the fact that I was planning on that, because they might have sabotaged my getting rid of Colby, because America wanted to see Colby go deep, because Colby is like a favorite. And
I said the fly.
Well, but you know how it works with all the norms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? The norms, they love the Colby.
I was about Mogo Mogo, you and Kathy and Sheehan, because
yep.
The gays love Sheehan. We've all loved Sheehan. We all do.
Oh, she's deliciously dramatic.
Yes.
She's outrageous. But no, Colby had to go, and I wanted to be the one to get rid of him, because you want to get rid of the Goliath.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I wanted to make sure that I did not give him any chance to find a little bit of favor with production kind of pulling a few strings. So I was like, that guy's got to go quick. But he kind of teed it up for me when he said, can we be in an alliance? And I'm all yes, because then he didn't see me doing that.
Yeah.
It gave me the perfect cover to easily get rid of him.
He's also not that much of a strategical player either, though. I find Colby very overrated as a player to this day.
Totally.
I really think Tina deserved that win. A lot of people think Colby deserved it, but Tina deserved that win. She's strategically played. An underrated winner, by the way, is Tina. Incredible. Colby was just not a good social player. He's really keeps to himself, from what it seems like, and he's physical.
You're absolutely right. His game is 100% physical. and that's it. His social game is virtually non-existent. He had you could tell how uncomfortable he was around Richard Hatch when Richard Hatch was naked.
Yeah.
And I used to just giggle like a schoolgirl when Colby. I could see Colby. I could see Colby just like, cringing or wanting to run away, and I'm like, I'm a Hatch. Just let it all fly, let it all hang out, Hatch. I don't care. I mean, it's a you got a dangler. Who cares? It's just another dong, right?
Oh, Lex, I'm sorry. What were this? Just going into this, what were the dynamics of Mogo Mogo? And Sam really wants to know this because his friends are asking him. We don't know what the like how Mogo Mogo's like hierarchy was because they never really showed it. Like who would have been first boot, who would have been second boot, like who was close to who. What were the dynamics on Mogo Mogo? We want to know.
Yep. So they didn't show very much of it, and it's probably because there were 3 tribes, there were a lot of big players. Yeah. But when we spent it was almost a week that we were on the Pearl Islands before the game even started. They brought us out there early, not because we needed much training, because there's not much that can hurt you out there. But it was because it was the first returning players. It was such a big deal to the world that they had us doing like press junkets. They had flown a whole bunch of reporters and magazines and TV outlets, and so we had like 4 or 5 days of like photo shoots, interviews with different members of the press. And during that whole time, we were all sequestered in these little kind of huts or little kind of little resorty kind of places by tribe. So I was everyone on Mogo Mogo, so it was, me, Sheann, Jenna, Kathy, Richard, and Colby. We were in our own place. We had not seen anybody else. We never got to see anybody else, but our tribe had flown together. We flew together as a tribe. Really? From Miami. We flew together as a tribe, and then we were, kind of sequestered. And during that, week, 5 days or whatnot, when there was no one around us, we were all kind of talking a little bit to each other when we could. And immediately, Colby, his assumption, and he talked to Hatch right away. He brought Hatch in. He says, and the whole deal with Colby and Hatch was that we had an alliance of the 3 guys. It was going to be Lex, Colby, and Hatch. They thought it was brilliant, genius game. 3 of the hardest players. They loved the idea. I hated the idea.
Me too.
I hated the idea for so many reasons. Let me count the ways. It's like you can't possibly put a bigger target on your back than to be these 3 guys, a winner. And we had all agreed before we went into this game that winners were the first to go. So aligning with a winner, bad call. Aligning with Richard Hatch, who, is just kind of a liar and cannot be trusted. That was out the window for me. Aligning with Colby, I've already explained why I didn't want to, align with Colby. All of it to me just reeked of a bad move. So, but I wanted them to believe that we were aligned. So meanwhile, I just aligned. Kathy was my number 1. She was my big Tom and my Ethan for All Stars. She was my partner, in all things, my co-pilot, or I was the co-pilot to her pilot, or vice versa. So, and then, second to that was Sheann and Jenna. So, and is that, I mean, who else was there? Sheann, were there? Am I misspeaking? Who?
Yeah, there was
there?
Sheann, Jenna, Kathy, you, Hatch, Colby was Mogo Mogo.
Okay, yeah. So we had, I told Kathy what Colby and Hatch thought was going on, and Kathy was great for me because she brought in the women, which was easy. It's easier for me to have her do it than for me to do it. And Kathy and I just pulled all the strings. We were the puppet masters on Mogo Mogo. But we had to be really, really, really secretive and really sneaky, because the whole time you got Hatch who's listening to everything. You got Colby who's paranoid. I can't let them know that I've got this thing going with Kathy and the rest of the girls. So it was, I mean, it was, up until the point where we got rid of Colby and Hatch, it was a lot of kind of sneaking around, whispers, in the night, out in the water, all of these kinds of things. So the dynamic that was the dynamic. It felt like, I felt like the stress of a double agent. I had to pretend I was with the dudes. I actually was with the girls. I had to pretend, it was complicated, and it was a lot of sneaky stuff.
Wow, yeah, I loved it. I love the Mogo Mogo Tribe. But yeah, it was unfortunate. See, I was like vote the winners out first, obviously. But like Jenna Maraska, I think of the winners, I love her as a winner. I love Jenna Maraska. Like another winner who I think was really given the shaft on the all winner season. There was a few of them, but I really wish that Jenna would have come back because a lot of people love her because she was the first 21-year-old woman to really kick ass. And just between me and you, I really think that she's an old soul. And yes, she was she's kind of her first season. She was like always aggro and always whatever, but she's a strong-willed woman and she's gone through
also very smart.
Yeah.
She's a very, very, very smart, smart lady.
So my question is, where did Jenna stand in the pecking order? And let's say she didn't quit the game, who would have been the first boot?
And who was left? Who was left at that point?
All six of you.
Colby, but Hatch was gone at that point already.
Oh
right?
yeah, no, Hatch is gone the next episode. The first episode you guys swapped.
Yeah. So so we're left now with it's me, Kathy.
It's all six of you. It's Mogo Mogo. Would Hatch Colby, been the first one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, in my mind, with Hatch gone, my decision would have been to have Colby go next.
Yeah.
Because I felt an urgency to get rid of Colby. Mm-hmm. I knew that getting rid of Jenna was not going to be especially difficult.
Yeah.
She definitely would have been next because really my core alliance in Mogo Mogo was, Kathy was absolute number one. Sheann was kind of my secondary alliance. I didn't feel comfortable enough with Sheann to make her a full member of the alliance, with all benefits and privileges.
Yeah.
I wanted to think that she had it, but I also knew that I just didn't trust Sheann enough. I knew that she was always
crafty.
She was crafty and volatile, and I knew that once there was a merge or a switch, that she was somebody that would very likely could be. You could bet on the fact that she might find someone else and bail on your. She was kind of a new school player before there was a new school.
Very true.
Nowadays alliances they're like.
It's voting blocks. There's no alliances.
They're disposable razors. They have a shelf life of like 4 days, and then you're on to another one. And you don't have guilt when you throw the disposable razor away. People now don't have guilt about throwing their alliances away. Sheann was always like that. I knew that. I felt that about her, right? But we had the three. So on Mogo Mogo, it was me, Sheann, and Kathy.
Yeah.
And everyone else was an other. So if I'd had my druthers, if Kathy agreed, it would have been Colby next because I just wanted him out. It would have been after that. It would have clearly been Jenna next because she was a winner, and we had all agreed that no winners go home. That's just, and all of us, because quite a few of us knew or had heard through the grapevine who was going to be going out before we left the States.
Lex, was there anyone that wasn't on the show that you were surprised? Was there anyone that you thought of all the 7 seasons that you thought would be there that wasn't there?
There were a lot of people that weren't there that I thought should have been there.
Yeah.
There were people that were on All Stars that I was shocked were on All Stars.
Amber, I'm sorry.
Amber, also, frankly,
Boston Rob.
Boston Rob.
Yes.
He never even made the
Boston Rob.
He never made the jury. He never made the jury. So we were all like, you're an all-star? You never made the jury, but you're an all-star? To me, all-stars are winners or people that came close to winning. So he was kind of a shocker to me. But yeah, there's a ton of people that I think should have been out there that weren't. I mean, frankly, it's a shock that Fair Play wasn't out there.
Yeah.
Right? It's a shock that somebody like maybe Hunter Ellis from
Really?
Marquesas or the General. These were larger than life characters as well.
You're right.
There's I don't. It's been so long that
Yeah.
it's hard for me to just kind of go back through the first
Yeah.
seven seasons and remember everybody. But I
Yeah.
remember being shocked about some of the decisions they made and some of the
sure.
decisions they didn't make.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, going back a bit, we had a bit of a sort of unofficial kind of telephone tree, running with the people that, everyone suspected might have gotten a call. And virtually all of us that were not winners, because the winners, we treated the winners as, they weren't part of the telephone tree. But we had all agreed that, and I know that this made CBS and SEG absolutely furious, but we had all basically shaken hands on the fact that when you can get rid of a winner, you get rid of a winner and you do it quick, because if a winner ends up in the final two or final three, it is shame on us, because if a winner does get that far, 100% guaranteed they're going to win, because they don't even have to make a case to the jury. They can say, I did it again.
Yeah.
Case closed.
And Jenna Lewis really got the brunt of that, because she's the only one that they really had saying, winners need to go, get off our playing field.
But we had all already made, we practically signed in ink that winners were going home. And that, that's what made it made Ethan, when he and I ended up on the same tribe, it made him absolutely, I felt terrible about it. It made him insane. And I've been accused in the past of betraying a friend. I've been accused of being a hypocrite for doing the same thing to Ethan that people say I accused Rob of doing to me. But it's not at all the same thing, because I never made a promise to Ethan for All Stars. I never made an alliance with Ethan for All Stars. And I was nothing but honest when I told him, I love you, you're my friend, but you got your $1 million. It's my turn. You got to go home. I still love you, but this ain't happening.
Lex, I love that. Well, that part I call it the Lex boardroom, because there are multiple survivors in the history of Survivor that you have taken into the Lex boardroom, taken aside and said, we decided this and you're going home. Sorry about it. Like, you did it to Clarence, you did it to Kelly, you did it to Ethan, Terry Manthe. Like, it's incredible. Like,
oh God.
Like, I'm gonna give you something that you're really I hope you're gonna love this right now. We're gonna do a little role play here. Let's picture that you are able to vote out Boston Rob right now. You are able to vote him off. It is time for Boston Rob to go. You're taking him into the Lex boardroom. What would you say to him? Let him know. Let's do this live.
Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna pretend and do it, because it's sadly, I'm going to disappoint you guys. It's not going to be nearly as dramatic and as interesting and fun as you want it to be, because at the end of the day, I'd have to treat him just like a human being, and so I'd certainly hand him a heaping helping of, dude, you remember what happened? Well, this is called karma. And I'm sorry, dude, but this is how it's going down. But I what I couldn't do is I don't think I could be mean about it with him. We have way too much history. And especially if we're talking about me now, I'm different. I think I've changed a lot in the last 20 years, which is only natural. It's, it's 18 years almost 18 years since All Stars, I think, right? 17, 18 years. It's been a long time, and I've gotten older. I'd like to think I've gotten a bit wiser. I've definitely gotten a bit more sentimental. I don't have as many rough, harsh edges. I try to think a lot more before I speak, which I had a problem with filters and ruminating on anything before I barfed it out of my mouth back then. So back then it might have been a really fun, if it had been like maybe the year after All Stars, if could have had it, taken him to the boardroom and given him a lecture. It might have been heavy duty fireworks, but I can't put my mind in that. I can't put my mind in that zone right now, because if it was now, I think I would try to be kind about it, but I'd be firm and say, look, dude, it's got to be you. Let me list the million. I don't need to list the million reasons why it has to be you, but and I might throw a little bit of, you know what, all those times you didn't have to be such a bully about what you did, and I feel kind of good that I get to be the one to, smack you down and give you proper spanking and send you packing, because you were kind of a bully.
He was, and also
that ain't cool. It ain't cool.
Oh yeah, and Lex, like Boston Rob, and the thing about it, he has never. I've even looked for articles on this. It was similar to Big Tom in that he said a lot of anti-gay things his first season too. Like on Marquesas, like horribly homophobic things about John Carroll, and it was cringeworthy to watch. And he has never been held accountable for those things, or ever apologized or said anything for them. Horribly homophobic things, 10 times worse than what Big Tom said about gay men.
And Big Tom has made it right. He's actually come out and said, "Yeah, you know what? I was wrong."
Has Boston Rob though?
No, not in that regard. I think he knows that it's kind of been erased from the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Except with people like y'all, who were clearly paying attention, as you should.
Yes.
Does the round where Jerry goes home, was that the one round that probably haunted you the most?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about
it absolutely it is heart-wrenching and heartbreaking, because Jerry Manthe is one of my people. I love.
He's our idol.
We stand for Jerry Manthe, Lex. We love the Queen. Okay,
I love Jerry. She is one of my closest friends. I just talked to her last week. She called me because she wanted some relationship advice.
I'll give her relationship advice. I love Jerry.
And when we talk on the phone, we'll talk for 2 hours, and it's awesome. I'm really sad that I haven't been able to see her, because she doesn't live terribly far from me now. She's moved she's only about 2.5, 3 hours away from me right now. But I do keep in touch with her, and I just adore her. She is just such a sweet soul. And I just love her. And we've been fortunate to be able to do traveling together. We've done events together. I spent 3 weeks on a yacht in the British Virgin Isles with Jerry and Kathy O'Brien.
Wow.
Two of my idols.
And the three of us spent 3 weeks living on a yacht together to shoot a short yacht commercial. And out of those 3 weeks, I think we spent maybe some total of maybe 1 day shooting and about 20 days having fun. but Jerry is just wonderful. And so that's a really hard one, because I don't know if you know, but at the end, so Kathy and I, that day where we had to make that decision, knowing that tribal council was that night, Kathy and I talked, as we always did, because we were partners. We talked a lot about it. We talked through everything, all the different options, why this might be the right thing to do, that might be the right thing to do. And then we took some time apart and really thought about it. And then we came back together. And at the end of that day, before we went to tribal council, she and I told each other who we wanted to vote out. And I told her I wanted to vote out Amber. And she said, well, no, I want to vote out Jerry. And here's the thing. Up until that point of the game, I had made most of the decisions, and Kathy had been a great partner, and she'd followed what I wanted to do. When I wanted to get rid of Colby, at that time, she was like, I don't know if I want to get rid of Colby yet, because he can help us with challenges. And I said, Kathy, just trust me and do this for me. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to be a good partner for you, and I'm going to do what you want me to do. And that happened a few times. And by this point, I felt like I really needed to I needed to be a good partner for Kathy, and not because I understood where she was coming from. She had, she had a really good relationship with Boston Rob as well, and she had actually played with him in Marquesas. So she kind of thought, I'm like a mom figure, he's like a son figure. He's not going to, if he tells me that he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And she also, you have to think about, in Kathy's mind, Kathy knew that Jerry and I were like this before All Stars. Jerry was my girl. I love Jerry. Kathy on All Stars was my girl. She was she was naturally worried about, okay, there's this new girl that Lex has a previous relationship with, outside the game of friendship. She's going to come in here and horn in on my primary alliance that I've been working with since day one. And Kathy knew that if Jerry had to choose between who she would work with and who she would vote out, Kathy knew that Jerry was always going to be mine. And if Kathy and I made it to the final two, I would always have Jerry's vote. Jerry would never vote for Kathy. So naturally, Kathy knew that the smart thing would be to get rid of Jerry and keep Amber, because Jerry was mine. And Jerry was not Kathy's. So when Kathy said, look, I'd love for you to do this one thing for me, I said, okay, I'll do this for you. Let's vote out Jerry. But when I had to tell Jerry that it was heart-wrenching, because I knew that once the merge happened, which I knew was imminent, if I had Kathy and I had Jerry, then I was going to have Big Tom and me. We had something. We had something to work with. We had something going on, man.
Yeah, you would have won the game, no question. You would have had 5. It would have been you, Kathy, Sheehan, Big Tom, and Jerry. The 5 of you. You would have kicked off Jerry at 5. Then you would have kicked off Sheehan, and then the final 3 would have been you, Big Tom, and Kathy. And that would have been a weird decision, but both of them would have taken you to the end. 100% you would have won the game. Yeah,
well, and the only thing that goes a bit different, as if I'd had my way, is Sheehan goes before Jerry.
Ooh, the shade! Yo, she's like
I believe that.
Sheehan's got to go, because at that point, if we merge, I could not sleep with. I'd have to have one eye open, because I'd know that Sheehan would probably jump ships to someone else. So she's a liability. Got to get rid of her. She's my girl.
I mean, instead you have cringeworthy Jenna Lewis and double cringeworthy Alicia making it ours. I mean, I'm sorry, just keeping it real. They were so cringeworthy. But like, Jenna Lewis was cringeworthy though, right? Am I like the only one that thinks? I'm sorry, you really. I'm sure you like her, but she was a little cringeworthy on the show to watch.
She was difficult to watch on All Stars. I do love Jenna Lewis.
She's very sweet.
She's a very sweet girl, and she's just an amazing woman. It was hard for me to watch her on All Stars.
I liked her on Borneo. I really did.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It was hard to watch any of us on All Stars.
Yeah.
All of us, I would argue, had cringeworthy moments. All of us, we were out of our depth. We didn't know what to expect. Never before had there been any sort of competitive reality situation where returning players who knew each other competed against each other. So it was all uncharted territory and uncharted waters. And when we found ourselves in the middle of it all, we thought before we hit the beach, we all thought we knew what we were going to do. We thought we knew how it was going to go. And all of a sudden we found ourselves in the middle of that, and we're like, oh shit, this is really hard. And this game is so, by its nature, is so ruthless. And now I'm playing against people that I really have genuine affection and feelings for. I think it threw all of us for a loop. And that's where a lot of those cringeworthy moments came. We were all just worn to a frizzle. Our feelings, our emotions, our psyches were just ragged and raw. And that's why, when you turn the heat up on the Bunsen burner that high, everyone's going to be dancing a little wonky and funky. And that's why we were all, a bit out of our depth.
Yeah. So
Oh,
then
yeah.
I guess just last thing about All Stars then. Well, the last thing about you being in the game is like, what was your perspective on the way out, and just kind of let's hear your thought process there
You mean during the game, like
after the
live?
merge. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
getting voted
Well,
off there. Just
it
watching
was.
it back too.
I mean, I only ever watched All Stars when it was airing live.
Once.
I'll never watch it again. Um, and I'll tell you, those days once we merged, those couple days, some of the darkest days of my 57-year life.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. It was rough.
It was rough. It was awful. Plus the conditions were really, the relentless, just constant dumping of rain, finding myself, in a situation where it was my worst nightmare because I am a control freak.
Yep.
And finding myself in a
Same.
situation where I was literally, there was absolutely nothing I could do. I felt like I was just on just the grossest, kind of most uncomfortable, strapped to the front of a locomotive, headed straight into a wall, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. That feeling of helplessness, combined with just kind of like, there was a lot of kind of mean, that's where I would fault, and perhaps it was because Rob was just young and unaware, but the meanness that he brought to his game, like he didn't have to be, you could be ruthless and you could be hardcore, but you don't have to be mean about it. That it was Those were some dark days, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you, I was at that point. I mean, I was so ready to go by the time we got to that tribal council after the merge. Kathy O'Brien, to her credit, she is a wonderful, wonderful woman. I love her. She offered me her immunity necklace. And
Wow.
as you recall, there were
Yeah.
2 immunity necklaces, and I came this close. I was second to last. I lost by that much, I believe, against Boston Rob.
Yeah.
It was that swimming one, right? We had to go
It was.
underwater, and
Yeah. That's it.
and before we went into tribal council, when we were just waiting out there in the rain, Kathy came up to me and she said, I'm going to give you the necklace. And I said, don't you fucking dare give me that necklace, for a couple reasons. I said, I don't want you to give me the necklace because I don't want to go down in history as the double dumbest survivor to ever play the game. Dumb once because I trusted Rob, but dumb twice because I'll be the guy that actually refused to take your necklace. So I can't have you making me look like a total fool on TV, because I said, I will not accept your necklace. You earned that necklace fair and square. I didn't. You and I have been partners since the get-go. I'm not going to take this chance away from you. And I don't feel that it's right for me to get that necklace because I agreed to vote Jerry off. That was my decision. And I don't feel right taking your necklace. And then finally, the last reason is I also, at that point, I had been beaten down so hard emotionally, I didn't want to fucking play that game anymore. I officially, at that moment, I hated the game of Survivor at that point. All Stars was a tough season to play. I don't think, outside of maybe Rob and Amber, I don't think a single other person on the entire cast will tell you that they had a good time out there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I loved Africa for all of how hard it was. It was just one of the greatest experiences of my life. I loved it. I hated playing All Stars. And I think almost everybody, with the exception of Rob and Amber, will tell you that they hated playing All Stars. And at that moment, in that final tribal for me, as it was just pissing rain on me, and I knew the hammer was about to fall, I hated the game with just a dripping passion. I just wanted no part of it at that moment.
And I think that it definitely changed in time. Like Heroes versus Villains is one of the best seasons of Survivor.
Yes.
That was the next time they did a full All-Star. So I think
Yes.
Survivor progressed and it went from All-Stars was a very emotional game.
Yep.
You had a very bitter jury. That's how it was.
Yep.
Over time, the emotions were taken out of it. And I think that's one thing that Survivor has changed.
Well, we all learned, you know, we were the ones, the 18 of us that played All-Stars, we forged that new ground. We were the players to cut our teeth on the whole concept of a returning cast members, and everyone else from that point on out learned from our experience, whether it be from watching All-Stars or from, you know, all of us hanging out and sharing stories. And, you know, for all of us that played All-Stars, it's like being with other survivors was often like our therapy. And I think everyone learned about how hard it was, and that's how they were able to temper and get their minds ready before they might be invited back to go to an All-Star returning player season. So yeah, there's a good reason that it felt very different from Heroes versus Villain on.
Yeah.
But naturally, the first time it happened, all of us, it's like we all got collectively hit in the head with a 2x4 that we didn't see coming. We got sucker punched by that experience.
Absolutely.
Have you ever been close to coming back again, Lex? Have you been contacted in different iterations?
Well, I'll be totally transparent, as much as I can be.
Yeah.
I've been asked back 3 times.
Wow.
The first 2 times I declined for a number of reasons. I mean, I'll tell you one of the reasons was I was asked back for Blood versus Water.
Okay.
And they wanted me to play with my younger son. 2 things. A, fundamentally, I don't believe in mixing family with Survivor.
Yeah.
I knew that they were going to pit us against each other, and I just and I had been through my own very difficult journey to know that, you know, you got to be careful what you wish for, and I wasn't wishing any of that on my son. But I also knew for a fact that my son would never want to do it in a million years. He grew up, you know, literally his whole childhood was soaking in Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he had, you know, he was proud of me, and he was, you know, riding shotgun through all the hard stuff as well.
Yeah.
He remembers being in the audience at Madison Square Garden. He was in the audience with my wife when the entire audience at Madison Square Garden started booing his father.
Yeah, they booed you and Jerry, which is horrifying.
And this is a boy who at that point was, I think he was 8 years old. I was his hero, and here he's got tens of thousands of people booing his old man. He ran out of that theater sobbing, crying. And so, you know, I knew that he'd never want to play Survivor, right? So anyway, I said no for that one. I said no for, I'm not going to get into detail on the second one. And then I was asked, I didn't hear for a long time, which felt kind of good because I felt like my life got normal again. And then I was asked, not long ago, I was asked to play in a returning season, and I started preparing for it. I started training, and I, backing up, you know, rewinding just a bit. I shocked myself when I said yes. I didn't think I was going to say yes. I thought for sure that I would just decline every time. And for some reason, when they asked me this 3rd time, I felt like I was ready. So I said yes. I asked my wife first. You know, I had to check in with my wife and my boss at work because, you know, I need a job, and I need to make sure, you know, my wife is my partner and she's got to be okay with it because it's, you know, very difficult for your spouse. But I got the green light, so I said yes. And then I was getting ready and preparing and training, and then I got a call from casting that I had been cut from the group, and that I would find out later why it was, but that I was no longer a good fit for the theme. So I said yes the 3rd time, shocking to me, but then I ended up getting cut. So
it was Winners at War, right? That was.
Yeah, maybe.
We know the team because originally they were.
Well, I'll tell you what. I never won, so.
Well,
Would you go back if
deserve
they
to
asked you
win.
again? Would you go back if they asked you again? Would you put yourself through that?
I don't know. I've never made put a hard, drawn a hard line in the sand by saying I would never do it again or I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's I always just say, who knows?
Yeah.
Let's wait and see if I get a call again. I may never get a call again, but if I do, I'll make the decision then, and it'll be whether or not, is it right for me at this point in my life?
Mm-hmm.
If I have a sense of what the theme is the theme right for me?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a big decision. The people that say that they would absolutely do it no matter what, I think they're fools.
I don't believe it. Yeah.
That's like saying that you'd put your hand, in a hole in a box, not knowing if there's scorpions, knives, or candy in there, just because because you're a gambler. I'm not that stupid. And then people that say that they would never do it again, I think are doing themselves a disservice by closing a door that doesn't have to be closed.
Lex, the season that I think is calling your name would be old school versus new school. And I think it's going to happen because of how fans were so pissed with Winners at War and how all the iconic old school winners, Ethan, Rob, Parvati, Sandra, all these old school winners, Danny, were knocked off right away when everyone wanted to see them. I didn't want to see Sarah play again. I'm sorry. Now, next. I'm sorry, new winners. Bye.
Maybe they might even decide to do not old school versus new school, but just Survivor old school. And they just bring back old school people only, or they bring back old school and new school people, but there's no new school gimmicks, no islands, no idols, no currency, just reward challenge, immunity challenge, tribal council, rinse and repeat. You're done.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right,
Lex, I feel like your game is. I just want to say, I feel personally your story is incomplete in Survivor because I feel like the way it ended was on such a sour note in All Stars, and I feel like
sadly,
even just coming back, if you were to ever come back, choose to obviously participate and come back. I feel like just having that full circle of, I think, seeing you again in a different era of Survivor in a different game, I think that would just make your whole game story-wise come full circle, and I do hope to see that one day. So I just have to put that out there.
Lex, you deserve your Jerry Manthe full circle run of Survivor.
I agree.
You deserve it because Jerry Manthe had love after Heroes vs. Villains and deserved that love.
And
you deserve that.
I love that her Survivor story arc went that way because no one deserves that more than Jerry. And I was really happy to see that that in the end, it was all on a positive note because she deserves all of that.
Absolutely. Okay, Lex, before we end things today, we're going to do a little game for you because I like to call it, as we do, the Lex Witch Trial. Yes. Okay, so this is subjective. Okay, so I am going to list a Survivor contestant, and you're subjectively going to tell me if they were guilty or innocent of voting for you. Okay, and this is subjective. Would this person be guilty or innocent? Okay, you're deciding. Okay.
So, and are these people that actually voted for me, or is this just going to be people that I haven't even played with?
Random person. No, it's people you've played with, but they could or couldn't have voted for you. Okay.
Okay.
They didn't necessarily have to, but would they be guilty or innocent of voting for you?
Okay.
First name on the list, we're gonna go with Sheehan.
Guilty.
All right. Next one, Alicia Calloway.
Guilty.
All right, Big Tom.
Well, guilty.
Yeah. Ooh! All right.
I'm pretty sure he put my name at the very end of All Stars.
He did.
Oh!
He might have even put my name on once. I don't know about Africa. No, I don't think he did it in Africa, but I know he did it on All Stars.
All right, Richard Hatch.
Innocent.
Wow. All right, this is going okay. What about Kelly Goldsmith?
Guilty.
Lindsay Richter.
innocent.
All right. And lastly, we're going to have Boston Rob.
Guilty.
Okay, one bonus one. Jeff Probst.
Oh, guilty.
Guilty for everything we've heard.
All right, Lex, that concludes our interview with you today. We had so much fun. This is going to be a two-parter. Me and Sam have decided. There's so much here, so it's going to be a two-part. Let's go, Lex, give your shout-outs, your social media, where everyone can find you.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I think my handle is Waiting for Zombies. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else. I'm not selling anything except for just love. Go out there, be nice to people, be kind, spread the love. God, be well, stay safe, wear your masks, and let's get through this COVID shitstorm together. I love you all. And you guys, Josh and Sam, thank you so much for having me. I had such a blast, and love you guys.
We love you too, Lex.
Thank you, Lex.
Sam, where can everyone find you?
You find me, follow me on Twitter, Letterboxd, Sam Henson 24. Wear a mask. Let's get through this COVID shitstorm. And thank you, Lex, for your time today.
Everybody mask up. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mendels8. And you can follow us at the Couch Potato Queens at Couch Potato Queens. That's Couch Potato QWNZ on Twitter. You can like us on our Facebook group, the Couch Potato Queens podcast. And with that said, always remember to outwit, outlast, and outgay, honey. Have a good day, everybody.